Summarized, what is plug and play tuning? You do not open the engine, you just take external parts and replace it with something bigger. This is from top to bottom. Carburettor, instead of 20mm SI carb, we take a 24. It's fine, you don't need 25, 26, and of course not a 28. They all perform the same. It's a big marketing joke. The cylinder, instead of 125, we're gonna go for 177. Then we're gonna replace the exhaust. This is the original exhaust. It is just a silencer. It's a box with a hose, a metal hose. That was it. Now we're gonna get one touring racing box with a proper manifold. And the fourth thing we do is we strengthen the clutch, because we are gonna triple the power. Instead of 4, it's gonna have then 13, 12, 13, 14, something like that. Way enough for the city. And of course some M7 stuff replacement to reduce the gearbox oil sucker. And we also set the ignition timing in detail to make sure that we have the needed 18 degrees. It also gets, that's 0.6 fast flow fuel tap to be on the safe side. Might work out with the original tap or not. An option would be to close this small hose, but we're gonna be on the safe side and a fuel tap. So, and then setting the carb, and this is it. Gonna be very interesting. I'm very curious how this VMC 177 is running as a plug and play cylinder. We will see soon. Cheers, guys. We have that VMC 177 plug and play tuning. So what we're gonna do now is, first thing, exchange the carburetor, the 20 with the 24, and we're gonna remove some matches. And the next thing we're doing, exchanging the cylinder 125 to VMC 177. Let's open this carburetor. As you can see with dirt, it has not been opened for quite some time, which is quite typical for original engines. This works fine with plug and play tuning. In general, also with. Is there a difference between PX 125? PX, no one saw that the screwdriver fell on the ground. Is there a difference between the air filters? No, there's not. You don't have to buy a 200 air filter. They have different versions, and this one just don't have any drills here. So just add the drills and you're fine. The only thing, if you have an LML with that blue net here, replace it, because the blue net is way too thin and does not let enough air through. And we're back to the carburetor. Let's remove it. There are 2 M9 washers below this loose carburetor screws. I like to use a magnet to make sure that they don't fall into the engine when we pull, to make sure that they don't fall into the engine when we remove the carburetor. One screw, the magnet holder will pull out the other 2 washers. 1, 2. Now we can remove the jug cable. And we open the hose, fuel hose connector. Make sure that the fuel tab is closed. Huh. Oh god, this will stink a lot. It looks like the original tab is not closing. Sorry guys. Yeah, I crept up. Doesn't close anymore. What I want to show you here is something typical. These two screws of the carburetor also hold the casing, but there's one screw here with the casing to fix it, and often this is loose, and as you can see here, it's not tight. This causes false air, so if the idle doesn't come back to normal quickly, that might be a reason. And the other thing is, this also causes the typical dirt all around the engine case here. So just make sure that this screw, I'll show it later to you, is tight. I always use some screw lock for it. Next thing is the gas cable. That's out. And the oil hose. I always put a screw in so it does not leak. And what you can do then with this free thing is you just put it in the frame hole. And they're gone. Cylinder, spark plug, cables. This is 11. There we go. Now we're gonna open the hat screw nuts. These are also at 11 socket. And we can pull the head. Doesn't matter if you lose the washers. We're gonna take the ones anyway. Anyways. And what do we see here? Only M7 standard and perhaps a wave. Looks like now. The wrong ones. And the head. Not that bad. Not so tight here. Bad oil. That's fine. That's fine. Quite tight. To pull the cylinder, you have to push down the exhaust. You just have to loosen this screw here. And then with the 17, the big exhaust screw has to be loosened, and then you can just push it down and pull the cylinder. The big exhaust screw is loose, so you just push down the manifold of the exhaust. We have to take out the engine bolts. Manifold is down, and now the cylinder, you cannot take it out because one cooling rip, or the bottom cooling rips, are hitting the frame here. So we have to take out the cylinder bolts. What I like to do before I take out the cylinder bolts is to mark them, how deep they shall Sit. We can also measure them. We can also measure them to get an indication. It is 41, 42. And just take 2 screw nuts on each bolt. I always use new ones. They don't cost nothing. The bolt is more expensive because old ones can damage it. You tighten them. And then you can take them out. I'm a lazy guy. I drill. Now, taking off the cylinder. It hits here, the frame, so you just twist it, and then you can pull it off. Push down the piston with the flywheel, and there we go. And voila. And what do we see? Not so tight here. That's normal. It always leaks. Black, 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 black. As usual, it has, of course, a gearbox oil sucker. All of them do have. This is a 2006-7, especially after 2001. The engine cases are crap. They have really bad sealing surfaces. You can even see it here, and in there. This is not oil. This is fuel, as the fuel tab is not closing. But you see, the black piston indicates not only that it was not run in properly. I mean, it was run in according to the rules, but here, this, oops. Where's it going? Oops. When it's black like that, that's an indicator that it sucks oil. And what we can see here, there is also just the wave washer, so all of these bolts are loose. We're gonna replace this. That's one step of the plug and play tuning advanced. Good. See you guys. Good night for today. Removing the piston and the piston pin is one of the trickiest parts of this whole plug and play process. Rule number 1, put something in the exhaust that nothing can disappear in there. Then we take out the civic clamp. What I do use is the small ratchet, the short extension, and I just push from the other side. You can also use a small socket on it. It's always a bitch. Oh. 0. Another trick is to use a caliper here and clamp it in, and then just move it to get it out. It does not move at all. The other thing you can use is a blowtorch to heat up the piston, but take care. There's so much fuel around it. And don't blow up yourself. Just a little bit heating up the piston. And try pushing it again from the back. There is movement. I did heat up with a blowtorch once again, and now I am using the extension from the back, pushing on the pin and just knocking a little bit here, as we're not gonna use this piston anymore. It doesn't matter. Crank will survive. It has to take way harder hits, and you see it is coming. Ooh, we did win. There's more movement. Ah, dirty moves. Oh yes. Different caliper, and we can pull it out. Oh yes. Oh God, I don't like it. Black is the new whatever. This is an oil sucker, as usual. Just a question of time. What to do with that leaking fuel tap, as it is in my garage? It is pretty bad. If the fuel tap is not closing, fuel may come out. So we're gonna do just one thing. Take a screw, pull out the hose if it wants to get pulled out. No, not this one. Yes, there we go. And just put the screw in. And then put it up higher than the fuel tap, so you're on the safe side, nothing can drip out. And as we're on it, we can now just take out the carburettor, take out the carburettor. The carburettor is gone. This is the screw I was talking about. You see how this casing is loose? That's not how it should be. This screw is loose, and you should take screw lock when you fix it. Look at this. You see that dirt here all around? This is caused by the loose casing because the oil is running along this line here, and if it's not tight then it gets out and looks like this. What a mess. We're now checking how good the carburetor casing, which is now adjusted perfectly to the carburetor, is fitting now the engine case. How much we need to remove. We're gonna put in one screw, yes. And what we see is that we have some edges here. And the back on this side, but we can remove these edges here. We don't like them, we don't need them. We're gonna just close the intake with the crankshaft and just remove it with a small sandpaper roller. So what you see here is a lot of dust. Most important thing is just don't move the crankshaft, and if you used compressed air, don't blow full power, blow soft. I'll show you in a second. So I removed this part and this part. What did I use for it? I used a sandpaper roll, and for the final work I used an old flap wheel here. So let's get a blow job. Where are you? And just gentle. You just flush it through. And what you see here is that the edges are gone, and that's what we were aiming for. That's the original 125 engine case with the small ports on the side, 3 ports. We do now have the 177 bottom gasket. Just use 2 bolts, cylinder bolts, to center it. And this is how it looks. And now take a marker and mark what has to be removed. It is quite some material. Nevertheless, it would also work just plug and play without removing these edges. But come on. Why having such a nice cylinder and not removing these few edges here? We have to take care in this corner. The material is very thin, so just round the edge here. Don't go too deep here, because on the other side, outside here, it will break through. This is so thin. Piaggio saved every cent of the cost material of this engine case. We don't want to break through. We put a lot of sticky tape in there, And now we're gonna gently remove all the edges we want to remove. Yeah, that's better. Boost port. You see it. That's good. 5 plies with a small bore. It's so thin from the inside here that there it is a little bit thicker here, but there's nothing. So if we would open this, this would be a 10mm hole. We're not gonna do that. I'm not putting cold metal here with that oily engine case. Not possible to heat it up properly, that it sweated out. So we just round this edge and take a little bit more here. That's all we can do. Not more possible. Ay, ay, ay. What a mess, huh? Now same game as before. We just used the compressed air gun. And we gently blow away all the stuff. The final check with the gasket. How does it look like? Better. Boost port is open. This side is open. We can't open this side. But at least at the bottom a bit. That's fine.
Bist du deppert? Ein Biest!
Sorry, ja.
Bist du deppert? Ist das ein Biest jetzt?